"Hey, Jessie," Jake said to me while poking his head into my room. I laughed at his bedhead, his light brown hair sticking up in all directions. Apparently, he just got up from bed. He ignored my laughter and threw me my phone. I caught it with no struggle. "Andrew's on the phone." "Okay, thanks, cousin," I shouted as he walked down the hall. I put the phone to my ear and said, "Hey, Andrew." "Hi, Jessie," Andrew replied out of breath. His tone sounded worried. "What, Andrew? This is like the third time you called today. I know you miss me so much as my only beloved brother, but I'll have to say, you're becoming too overprotective. I'm fine. I'm definitely stronger now. Stop getting your panties in a twist and stop worrying about me." "No, Jessie, that's not what I want to talk about," he growled seriously. My mouth snapped shut, knowing what he was about to say was serious. "Is everything okay, Andrew?" I asked, sitting up on my bed. Then, I heard a door shut on his end and hushed whispers. "Andrew, what's going on?" I asked again, this time screaming as the talking on his end became louder. "Jessie, listen and listen carefully," he said. "Now, he's gone to a quieter part of the room. Brian just got attacked and he's in critical condition. He wants you to be here. You're his best friend. Actually, we all need you here. So, I suggest you get packing and take the next flight down here." I stood up and paced around my room as soon as I heard his words. "What? What happened, Andrew?" I gasped. My voice started to quiver. This was all too much to digest. I couldn't help but imagine the worst-case scenarios in my head. "Is Brian okay?" "No, we are all not okay, Jessie." Andrew's voice trembled at the end. I clutched the phone tighter, unsure about what he was about to say. There was a moment of silence before Andrew let out a sob. "Mom's dead." For a while, I couldn't even understand what he was saying. My brain was filled with blank and I couldn't find any word to respond to him. I could feel myself slipping into the same numb feeling I felt when my dad died a year earlier. All I could hear were the sounds of Andrew's choked sobs and a feminine voice soothing him. "No, this can't be true. I just talked to my mother yesterday and she was better than ever." I enjoyed the sound of her tinkling laughter when I told her that Jake's cooking was a disaster. I enjoyed the lame joke that she shared. The sound of her voice alone was comforting. It made me feel as if I were home. Now she was gone. "Jessie, we've just been attacked an hour ago." Mom, she took the bullet for me," Andrew continued to explain. I could tell he was trying to keep an even tone. "The doctors told me it would be a miracle if she can survive this, so I'm assuming that she is." He couldn't finish his sentence. My heart dropped into my aching stomach. "I'm sorry, Jessie. It's my fault again. It's my fault that led to Mom's death. I'm so... At the other end of the phone, I heard the slam of a door. A voice that sounded like Brian started to speak up. He said something to Andrew, but his volume was too low to hear for me. "What?" Andrew asked in shock. He choked and started to cry again. "What? Are you lying to me?" Brian's voice sounded clearer now as he responded to Andrew's questions. "Andrew," I shouted into the phone, knitting my eyebrows together in worry. "Andrew, what the hell is going on?" I kept yelling his name into the phone, waiting for his response, but all I heard was the door slamming shut again and a different voice coming from the other end. Tears started to overflow in my eyes as I recognized the voice. "Hey, Jessie, your brother went to go check on your mom," Brian said calmly as I began to cry. "Calm down, Jessie. What's going on? Don't worry, Jessie. Your mom is fine. She's still alive. Trust me." Again, I couldn't find the right words to respond as my shoulders slumped and my eyes shut in relief. I began to smile and cry in happiness and appreciation that my mother was still alive. Andrew went to go check up on her. She made it. The doctor took the wolfsbane-laced bullet out just in time for her quick werewolf healing abilities to start working in her body. "She's fine, Jessie. She's just sick and needs to be treated for a couple of weeks." "Wolfsbane-laced bullet?" I asked in shock, remembering the bullets that were found in the guns my dad had stored in his warehouse. "Oh, come on, Jessie. You really are a poor wolf. You can't see the hunters that are hidden in the dark?" I shivered at the memory of his words, the way he tortured Daisy and my mom, and the way he hated my kind with a passion. Everything started to click together now. Once again, I hated myself for being the reason behind all of it. They wanted me, and since they couldn't find me, they were physically hurting the ones I loved. They knew they were my weak spot. I couldn't help the sudden surge of anger that ignited in me. "Brian, I'm coming home." I finally started to speak up, feeling the canines itch out of my gums and my wolf moving underneath my tight skin. "Coming home, Jessie?" Brian whispered. I could hear the shuffling of his feet. "Are you sure that's a great idea? Harry is still hurt about the whole breakup and he's still... Don't worry about that now. My mom is my first priority for the moment." "Okay, I'll call you back later to plan it out." "Sorry, but I have to go now. I need to deal with alpha duties." Brian said in a rush as I heard the door open on the other end. Bye, Jessie. Bye, Brian. I'd kept in touch with Brian ever since I've left them. Ever since then, we've still been as close as we were when I was still there. Brian has and always will be considered a brother to me. He was there when I told him about how I learned to use my hands to heal things. Yes, I was a hand healer, but I haven't perfected it yet. He shared my happiness with me. He was also there when I experienced the most painful heartbreak I had ever experienced 5 months ago. My heart constricted again at the memories. It was the first time I've ever felt my heart literally breaking into a million of pieces. It felt as if a cobra wrapped itself around my chest, squeezing the life out of me as I panted for more air. I remember the piercing screams mixed with the howls of my wolf that emitted from my chest. My body felt like it was on fire. I remember Jake and my other relatives surrounding me as I curled in on myself, hoping that the pain would stop. It was an hour later that I stayed on the ground, limp and lifeless with tears running down my cheeks. My mate had made love to another woman. Brian was pissed off and drove down for the weekend to cheer me up. He was about to beat the crap out of Harrison when he heard the news, but Betty, Brian's mate and Harrison's sister, stopped the two of them from getting into a fight. And ever since then, Andrew has ignored Harrison's existence. Both Avalon Pack and Raven Pack were mad at Harrison for doing what he did, but as for Harrison himself, he didn't care at all. I still love him, and I guess that was what hurt the most. Every now and then, I would feel the familiar burn in my chest. It occurred so many times already that my wolf learned to take it lightly, and eventually, we both got used to it. She was hurt, but she did not abandon me. If anything, she wanted to help me get stronger. Therefore, she helped dim the pain every time he would make love to another woman. The memory caused me to touch my Avalon-shaped mark that sat where my neck met my right shoulder. Tears rolled down my cheek. I missed him, but I knew he didn't miss me. I quickly wiped away my tear when I heard a knock on the door. Jake stuck his head inside. His hazel eyes showed concerned. I knew he wasn't going to leave me alone until I told him what happened. He was as stubborn as I was. "Just to let you know, I was eavesdropping," Jake said quietly and sat on the couch in my room. "You already know me, nosy." Jake Wood was at the same age as me. He hadn't found his mate yet, but he was so eager to find her. I knew that whoever his mate was extremely lucky. He'd treat her like a queen and would cherish her and spoil her. Jake was a healer of the wounded, meaning he could only heal cuts and bruises. He was stronger than I was in many ways, including his senses, agility, and energy. He's been training me ever since we first met, and because of him, thanks to his efforts, I was a better healer now. "I'm coming with you whether you like it or not," Jake declared. "All right, Jake, come if you want." But there was just one thing. He's not too fond of healers. I guess you mean that crank whose name goes by." Jake paused, directing it towards Harrison. "I don't care what he thinks, Jessie. I just want to be there for Auntie Angela and for you. That crank is not within my consideration. Jake knew everything about me. That included my heavy past about Lancetown. He knew about Scott. He knew about Brian. He knew about who were supposed to be mated to each other. He knew about my friendship with everyone in Lancetown. I wasn't overly excited to go back to Lancetown. Reuniting with my friends, my brother, and my mom made me all giddy inside. I missed them so much that I couldn't wait to see them. There was just one thing I wasn't so sure about. Harrison, my mate. He would probably be mad at me for coming home. He'd probably not allow me to be on his territory. Whatever he'd do, I wasn't too happy to see the man that broke my heart and the mate that I thought was perfect. I really don't know where this reunion may lead to, but I was about to find out soon enough. "All right, then you should start packing now. We are leaving early tomorrow morning," I sighed as I grabbed the dusty luggage at the back of my closet. "Sorry, but I completely forgot to ask. I'm such a bad friend." I spoke with sympathy on the phone. "I can't believe I forgot that Andrew told me you were severely injured. I was distracted when he told me my mom was dead." "Don't worry, Jessie. I'm fine. Just a few scratches and bruises here and there," Brian said. "When I was on the phone with you, I was much better. My wolf is such a badass that it's helping me heal a lot faster. Where are you now?" I grinned and felt the nervousness bubble in my stomach as I passed the old worn-out sign that read, "Welcome to Lancetown, home of the mythical forests." In faded white lettering, the wood was damp, green algae covering the legs. "I'd just crossed the border," I said joyfully. "Just hurry up and get over here, I need you." Brian whined. I heard a loud thump and Brian's grunt. I laughed, assuming it was Betty. Okay, babe, stop it. You know you're my one and only." "Oh, Brian, you are still the same as ever," I said as I laughed at them. "See you in 20 minutes. Bye. I finally made it back home, and all the emotions were bubbling to the surface. Jake laughed as he rolled down the windows, letting the cool air blow through our hair. I sniffed the familiar green leaves, and the scent of both the Avalon and Stone Pack mingled in the air. "I love the wind blowing through my hair," Jake screamed, catching the attention of a few people as we drove by local restaurants and small stores. "Hey, Jake, please slow down with my car or you may crash it. You know how much I love my Pegasus," I scolded as he turned sharply. I gripped onto the black leather-clad seats as he sharply turned another turn. "Pegasus aren't all that," Jake shrugged. "Just slow down, okay? We don't have to rush to get there, you know," I said, but that was actually a lie. Don't get me wrong, I was so excited to see my friends and family. I wanted to squeeze the living daylights out of them. I also wanted to hug my mom, to feel the comfort of her slender fingers playing with my long brown hair. I wanted to see for myself that my mother and my best friend were all right. Then there was the other thing that made me want to stall this trip back home. Harrison White. White! How would he react with my return? Did he even know I was coming back? What if he didn't love me anymore, or he wholly dismisses the fact that we're even mates? What if he has married somebody else and had his babies with her? The thought clenched my heart. "No, that's not possible," my wolf said. "Don't think like that." He'd never go that far. Jake sensed the worry in my voice and he looked at me. I'm pretty sure that he could see the conflict swimming in my green eyes. He sighed, slowing down until we were just cruising. "Jessie, you have to face him eventually," Jake said as he clenched the steering wheel so his knuckles were white. I'm surprised the wheel didn't crush under the pressure being applied to it. I personally can't wait to see his face with bruises on it. "Jake, I really appreciated that you're looking over me like a normal cousin would do, but please don't cause any trouble with him." I fiddled with the loose thread on my white sweater. "We ain't here for him. We are here for my mom and Brian. I just can't stand what he did that to you. A mate is a precious gift, and he's lucky he even found his own," Jake said, envy dripping from his voice. "Promise me you won't cause any trouble?" I pleaded again. "All right, I won't, Jessie," he huffed. "You'll find your mate soon," I smiled. "And she'd be lucky to have you." Jake didn't seem so sure of my reassurance, so he simply nodded and shifted in his seat. We didn't say much, and the car was silent. It was a comforting silence, though, as we were too absorbed in our own thoughts to say anything. I felt the nervousness deep in my belly as we turned into the street where the gorgeous pack house was located. Its huge structure could be seen from here with the smoke coming out of the chimney in gray swirls. It was a deep brown color with large windows and balconies. The Avalon pack had bought a new pack home, using the old yellow one as a meeting area between them and the Raven pack. They've decided to purchase a new one since, well, I don't know. Probably they felt like they were richer than before. Jake drove into the driveway, parking in front of the huge double doors. I sniffed the air, noticing that the Raven pack was here as well. The laughter and conversation coming from inside the house went silent as the engine from our car cut off. I wasn't even halfway out of the car when the double doors slammed open and familiar dark hair and rusted color hair came running my way. I shrieked when they almost tore off my baby's door and practically squished me to death. "Jessie!" Nelson yelled in happiness. "Finally, you are back. You know how boring it's been since you've left? I had to endure Jennifer and Betty's constant PMSing. Yeah, you know how hard it was to be in the middle of Jennifer and Nell's constant banter alone? I missed it when we used to make fun of them," Perry pretended as he was about to cry. "But now I'm not so alone anymore." The two boys let go of me and Nell smacked the back of Perry's rusted hair-covered head. I laughed at them and noticed Jake standing off to the side. He looked quite awkward. Since this is the first time he came to territory, so I guess this is the normal reaction for him. "Guys, this is my cousin, Jake." I gestured towards Jake standing next to me now. I pointed towards the two males in front of me. "Jake, this is Perry and Nell." They did a man handshake and started to haul the luggage into the house and up the stairs. I followed behind, hugging my arms to my chest. Sniffing the air, I only found the slight trace of the familiar manly smell that I missed in the time I was gone. My arms slumped in relief and disappointment. While the boys traveled up the stairs, I stayed behind looking at the pictures of the Avalon pack that hung on the wall. My eyes found a picture of me, smiling as Harrison held me tightly from behind as he kissed my cheek. It wasn't on the wall, however. I found it face down on top of the fireplace. My heart started to clench again. "Sorry about that, Jessie," I heard a familiar feminine voice say as she took the picture from my hands. She hung it back on its hook on the wall. Her crystal blue eyes showed concern. "I didn't take them off from the wall since you were gone. We haven't completely settled in yet." Betty lied and gave me a comforting smile. "You don't have to lie to me, Betty," I said, "but thanks for trying. Plus, you look like you're a clown on crack when you lie." "Oh, you are so mean, Jessie." Betty laughed and hugged me. I returned the embrace and laughed with her. "When did you get short hair?" I said, pulling back and playing with the black hair that framed her face in a bob cut. Since Nell thought it was funny to bleach half my hair in my sleep, Betty pouted and crossed her arms over her chest. I laughed at Nell's idiocy and ruffled her hair. "It looks nice. I could never pull off short hair." Right when I was done saying that, I heard a warrior battle cry. I looked up at the second level, startled, and saw Brian climbing over the banister about to jump on top of me. Before he could crush me, I quickly moved out of the way with my werewolf ability and watched as he landed on his face, groaning. Betty rolled her eyes and helped him up. "How many times do I have to tell you to stop getting yourself hurt? You're still recovering. Gosh, she's gotten super fast." Brian slowly got up, smoothing out his shirt. "Well done, Jessie." I couldn't respond as I gasped in shock at the bruises on his face. His bare arm was covered in gauze, blood clearly visible. My hands trembled at the sight of Brian. I've never seen him so wounded and injured. I'm sure my face paled as tears welled up in my eyes at my wounded best friend. "Brian," I whispered, coming closer and touching a bruise on his face lightly. "What happened? I don't want to kill the welcome home vibe, so you'll just have to wait for the meeting tomorrow to find out what happened." Brian shrugged it off like it was nothing. He opened his arms and crushed me into his chest. I was momentarily out of breath when I hugged him back. "I'm glad you're okay," I said, letting go of him and noticing the small smile on Betty's lips. She was happy that her mate reunited with his best friend. "Of course I'm okay. Nothing could take me down," Brian hollered. I rolled my eyes at his cockiness. "Yeah, right," Betty snorted. "I've taken you down before." "That's right, baby," Brian continued, putting his arm around her shoulders and nuzzling her neck. "You could take me down anytime." "Okay, my eyes are burning," I screamed, covering my eyes with my hands. The couple laughed and settled for just holding hands. I looked down at their linked hands, feeling envious towards their perfect relationship. My wolf howled, and I had to remind her it was my fault that we weren't exactly happy right now. I heard Perry, Jake, and Nell come down the stairs as they talked about the training Jake does on a daily basis. Perry whistled at the amount of work healers put into their training. Nell looked intimidated, but still praised the hard work and dedication that Jake does. "At least Jennifer is not around, or else you'd feel like you were watching porn," Brian groaned. "I swear, Nell and Jennifer have the worst case of public display of affection in the whole nation." I poked my tongue out in disgust as Nell turned the color of a ripe tomato. "Where is Jennifer?" "Where is Jennifer?" I asked. "She went with Daisy to see Scott," Betty said with no elaboration. I quickly dismissed it with no questions asked. The tense silence that followed lasted a couple of seconds as they all looked at me. I cleared my throat and smiled. "Guys, this is Jake," I motioned towards my cousin. Betty and Brian introduced themselves, welcoming him with bright smiles. "Did you visit your mom and Andrew yet?" Brian asked, concerned. "No, not yet," I sighed, scratching the back of my neck. It reminded me of Harrison, so I quickly dropped my hand. "I'm going there when Andrew calls." They went to the doctor for a daily checkup. "You'll be staying here for a while, right?" Betty asked with a warm smile, and I nodded. "My room is being used as an equipment site for all my mom's medical machines," I said. "I hope it's okay that I stayed." "You're welcomed anytime," Betty said. "In addition, Beta Nell gave you permission." As I was about to say something, I heard the distant sound of car doors shutting. The familiar manly smell wafted up my nose, causing my wolf to jump in joy. I froze, feeling my heart drop into my belly. My heart beat faster with every step that grew louder as he approached the front of the house. What confused me was the sweet, feminine smell that mixed with his and the heavier sound of footsteps that followed after him. I inhaled deeply, trying to recognize the smell. However, I couldn't. I shrugged it off. It was probably a new werewolf. Everyone around me watched me with wary eyes. Jake stood behind me as we all awaited the presence of my mate. I really didn't want this moment to come so soon, but I quickly closed my eyes knowing I had to encounter him sometime. When I opened my eyes, there he was staring back at me with his crystal blue eyes that darkened like a storm. I could see all the emotions that flickered in them. He opened his mouth to say something, but he was at a loss of words. He was still as handsome as before with his black hair cut short, his prominent jawline, his sculpted cheekbones, and his muscled arms I remembered myself being wrapped in. My wolf demanded that I embrace my mate now, but I followed the same muscled arms that used to hold me and found that his hand was intertwined with a smaller hand. My world collapsed as I saw the woman next to Harrison. She was around my age, and she was extremely pretty. Her light brown hair was in a loose side braid, her shorter hair framing her heart-shaped face. She looked happy to see me as her lips pulled into a big, welcoming smile. She was average. She wasn't someone who I'd imagined to see wrapping her arms around Harrison. She was just a normal human. For a couple of seconds, it was quiet as I swallowed in on myself. I could literally feel my heart breaking in two. My vision started to blur, but I blinked back the tears and plastered on a fake smile. "Hello, Harrison," I addressed formally, and his expression never changed. He still looked at me with all the emotions flickering on his face. "This is Jake Woods, my cousin." I looked up at Jake to see his lips set in a thin line. His light brown eyes had darkened in anger. "Calm down, Jake." "You promised," I spoke through the mind link. He didn't listen, but stared at Harrison as if he wanted to kill him right there. "Baby, are you okay?" The female next to Harrison put a hand on his shoulder in worry. I held in the growl that dared to escape my lips. That seemed to snap Harrison out of whatever he was thinking. He ran his hand in his hair before glancing at me again. He, too, plastered on a fake smile as he spoke. "Welcome back, Jessica." I cringed when he said my full name. His smooth and deep voice brought back memories of when he used to tease me, tell me stories, and whisper adoring words in my ear. I shook it off. "Jake, welcome to Lansdowne." Jake shifted his weight, but didn't say anything. "Ah," Harrison continued, still wearing that fake smile. "This is Sarah Price, my girlfriend. Nice to meet you," I forced out. "I'll see you guys at dinner." "I'm going to go, unpack my stuff. Do you need help?" Betty asked, her voice soothing. I didn't dare look at anyone else in the room, afraid that if I met their sympathetic eyes, I would burst. No? Thank you." Walking past Harrison and into the corridor where the stairs were located, I felt the tears roll down my face and heard the whimper of my wolf. She cried too. Even if I sat as far away as possible, I was still aware of his every movement. Usually, I would bathe in his manly smell that engulfed me for the past 2 hours. I would bury myself in my favorite scent, content and happy. However, it felt suffocating when I reminded myself that we weren't together anymore or he didn't want me. Harrison was quiet, occasionally looking in my direction. My wolf would purr every time he secretly glanced at us. My hands itched to wipe the food that smeared on the corner of his mouth. Whenever I was aware that Sarah entwined her hands with his own, I had to stop the growl that wanted to escape from my lips.